Well, that's crazy. Did not expect that to go off so quick. Welcome, everyone, to the pre party. And I'm a minute early, so I'm going to make this stretch this one out a little bit before we go live. But I believe we are broadcasting right now. It's hard times, my friend. Hard times. Given what was happening in the NWA just before this event, and what the fan reactions have been following this pay-per-view, it seems well named Hard Times 3. Nick Aldis gave his notice, and over the course of a few days, he called the National Wrestling Alliance the most toxic brand in wrestling. He explained that the creative direction left him embarrassed enough to leave, that it didn't pass the Harley race test, that if he were standing in front of Harley and Ric Flair and the Funks, he wouldn't know what to say about the current product. And he noted that he hopes people understand why it was important for him to share that he was giving his notice prior to Hard Times 3, now that the event is out. Somewhere along the way, he was suspended by the NWA, of course. And somewhere in there, it became clear to all of us that the NWA's number one five-tool athlete, as Jay calls him, the man whose shoulders the NWA has rested upon during the Lightning One era, was no longer going to be part of this company. The NWA also lost Taryn Terrell directly in front of this pay-per-view too. A talented wrestler, manager, and one that the NWA never quite seemed to know what to do with. She hung up her heels and retired from the sport altogether, and certainly will be missed. But in the wake of the press offered by Nick Aldis, Hard Times 3 itself rolled out this past weekend to less than stellar reviews, guys. Well, you can find some people out there that count it on the plus side. Slam Wrestling, for example, gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And the Facebook NWA message boards are full of fans who liked it. The general reviews amongst the critics, amongst the NWA fam that I follow out there, and that's a lot of you, hopefully all of you, have ranged in their reactions from average at best to extremely disappointing. While some high spots existed at this pay-per-view, such as Carino Edwards, the World Tag Team title match between La Rebellion and the Hometown Boys, Hawks Aerie, and even the three-way match for the World Women's Championship, as the women once again killed it and really should be headlining this company on a permanent basis for the time being. There was a lot of discontent with some of the storylines and some of the booking that the fans that we have expressed. And none of those more so than the decision to put the 10 pounds of gold on Tyrus. Again, there have been some responses to that decision that have been positive amongst our community. People who cite what the value of having Tyrus as world's heavyweight champion is. But the overall response from the critics to that decision, have been at best poor, to use that phrase again. I have seen several of our previously loyal NWA fans saying that they've canceled their fight subscriptions, guys, because of the booking, because of the quality of the product, because of some of these storylines. I've seen Sandoval, that Orange Santa, who's been a figure at ringside in the Lightning One era at all the tapings, it seems, saying he's done. Hashtag Sandoval out. I mean, he's one fan, sure, but he's sort of the super fan. And he's saying he's not going to watch anymore. I've seen countless posts saying, look at this product. Look at this booking. The talent's great, but the booking is awful. And Aldis was right. I've seen loyal NWA fan content creators, which I humbly count myself amongst, saying, I'm done with the NWA until the booking changes. I've heard NWA fam members, as we call ourselves, say that now the 10 pounds of gold, this 10 pounds of gold now used to mean something. Or that the National Wrestling Alliance, at least to them, the National Wrestling Alliance and what it should be is dead. Well, part of me wants to tell those people to calm down a little bit. The NWA will survive and the 10 pounds of gold is intact. Part of me knows that there's at least some truth behind what they're saying about what you guys are saying. So tonight, it's a little different around here in the pre-parties I cover for JCal. And over the next hour, we'll talk about the results for Hard Times 3. And we'll talk about the NWA World's Champion and that belt being put around the waist of Tyrus. And we'll talk together about the state of the National Wrestling Alliance. It's hard times, my friends, hard times, but we are the Alliance. And this is Alliance Wrestling. And this is the pre-party.
It's showtime.
It's the pre-party with JCal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
The absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
So that's my cold open, everybody. Welcome to the pre-party with JCal. I'm obviously not JCal. I'm Tim Wood, and I go by NWA Gold. I'm here sitting in for Jay while he's enjoying the aftermath of Hard Times 3 in the city of New Orleans. He'll be back for the Alliance Guys podcast on Thursday. And of course, I'll be here with my boys, Dave Scooby and Jeremy, tomorrow, where we're going to get into even more detail than the hour that we have to spend together here. There's a lot of you watching, and I'm really thankful for that. I want to acknowledge the chat very quickly first. Dodie, if you're here, my friend, so good to see you. Dodie is one of the strongest and most vocal members of the Alliance community. And we don't always agree, Dodie and I, on some of this stuff, but, you know, Dodie has so many insights that he often makes me think about the type of things we're going to be talking about tonight. James Bell is here. Hit Bingo 123. Jeremy's here from Reds Wrestling with the MMA from our show tomorrow. Pipe Picasso, who tells us all this is just sour grapes, guys. Well, maybe, but I think he's got a point. But really what I want to stress right off the bat tonight, we will talk about power later as well, is that it's not about what I think. I'm just one voice. This is about your voice tonight. This is going to be kind of free form as we talk about Hard Times 3, about Tyrus, about the state of the NWA. This is your chance to speak up, to listen to those who may be watching. For good or for ill, on either side of the coin, what's good and what's bad, and how we can fix it. Carlton's here. What's up, Carlton? And Willie Bowen. Willie, I don't know if you know this, man, but you're popular around the pay-per-view times too. As What Would Luthez Do tweeted right after Tyrus won the belt. Somebody check on Willie Bowen. So I hope you're doing well today. Let's get right off to some of the good comments from Jag VPW. Don't think I know you by that handle, but thank you for being here and welcome. I canceled my sub and I got rid of my NWA merch. That's cold. As long as Billy owns the NWA, I will not support this company anymore. That's That's hard times, hard statement. Fee is here, our friend from Scotland. Genuinely curious. You've canceled your sub and got rid of your merch. Why are you watching? And these are some of the arguments that we see going back and forth. I'll let you guys follow the chat. Here's a funny one. If you burn the Mongrovian flag, they'll put you in a Mongrovian gulag. Dave Scooby's here. He watches the NWA to support the talent and the staff, not the owner, and that's a important distinction. And it looks like Jay's in Colorado now, so that's a bit of a stop off. Thanks for letting me take over this platform, boss. Listen, let's get into it quick. I say at the 10-minute mark after we've started. Let's go right into the Hard Times 3 results. And tomorrow night, when we have a lot of time on our 120-minute broadcast that's only 60 minutes long, you have to watch to understand that one. There was, of course, a pre-show that importantly, excuse me, saw the win of Jordan Clearwater take the NWA World Television Championship. I'm wearing the shirt today. Good for you, Mr. Clearwater. Well deserved. And hey, Poyo is in the house, sitting here wearing her amazing new Alliance Wrestling t-shirt. That's awesome. Thank you for watching, Poyo. But that was certainly the most important match on the pre-show that we finally were able to capture. Get a NWA television champion out of that pre-show, and I think they made the right decision putting it on there. We started off with a Voodoo for the regular show, a Voodoo Queen casket match that saw Maxine Paler go over, defeat Natalia Markova. She looked like she took a heck of a bump, guys, against that casket at the end of the match when she was slammed into it. And what do we have after that? We had the match of the night for me, Colby Carino, who has improved so much in the last year or two, and I thought was a quality guy coming in, taking on Davey Richards. Hey, it's the cat. Off you go, buddy. Hey, there you go. Taking on Davey Richards for the MLW Openweight Championship. Unfortunately, coming up short, but in fact, a spectacular match between the two. If you haven't seen Hard Times 3 yet and you want to cut through some of the stuff, by all means, put that on your list. We had Mask versus Mask, the Question Mac versus the Question Mock, as we often say around here. The less said, the better, other than to say that this storyline is not ended. Question Mark, the Question Mark or Question Mac had to unmask, but immediately was covered up by a towel, so you couldn't see Rodney's face. It looks like that storyline will continue. One of the complaints that I've heard coming out of Hard Time 3. Poyo says, Black Cat crosses immediately after mentioning Voodoo Queen match. Coincidence? I think not. No, he's a good boy. We had Kerry Morton defeat Homicide, that dominant champion for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship. That was a solid match. We saw Poyo's man, Thrillbilly Silas, come unannounced out of the back. Unfortunately, Poyo was not there. She was on her photo shoot, as hopefully she can tell you all about in the chat, and come out of nowhere as a replacement for Nick Aldis to defeat Odinson in the match. We had the NWA United States Tag Team Championship, where the Fixers went over the Spectaculars after a double choke slam at about the 9-minute mark. Scion defeated Dak Draper with the Scion Bomb, I think he calls it, at about 6 minutes. So stopping Dak's, seemingly juggernaut-like rise to the national championship. I don't believe he'd lost previously. We saw pretty empowered. Kenzie Page and Ella Envy defeat Maddie and Missa Kate to retain the NWA World Women's Tag Team Championship. We saw EC3 defeat Tom Latimer by disqualification after Tom attacked the referee. We saw La Rebellion, in a shocker for the night for me, defeat Hawks Aerie, the hometown boys. And boy, the crowd was hot for this match. They were ready for them to take it. Was not meant to be at that pay-per-view. As we kind of wind up the last two matches, we had the NWA World Women's Championship as Camille, your one-time World Women's Champion, the Brick House, retained after a spear onto Chelsea Green in a pretty good match. I'd rank it number 3 overall behind the World Tag Team title match and Davey Richards and Steve Corino. And finally, we had the most controversial finish to the match. And as I say, the majority of the gripes that have come out of Hard Times 3, Tyrus wins the NWA World Championship with a Tongan grip slam combination over Trevor Murdoch and Matt Cardona, of course, in a 3-way match to capture themselves the 10 pounds of gold. I don't know if you guys have seen Tyrus's version yet. It's a lot bigger than what has been worn by Trevor Murdoch. It has bigger plates. It's a bigger belt. And as you may note, as I did this morning, the British flag, the UK flag, is no longer on the 10 pounds of gold, guys. The Australian flag has returned to the belt. Read into that what you will. Hard Times 3, and again, we'll talk about it tomorrow, was not my favorite pay-per-view. If I were rating it as I did that night, and between a scale of A to F, it would be a D for me. I always want to preface my comments by saying I don't blame the talent and I don't blame the staff. There are so many hardworking people doing their best, especially the talent in the ring, with what they've been given. And I think what we've been talking about on social media this week is what it is that Hard Times 3, the wake of all this, the comments that have come back and forth from that camp, from the NWA fam about this pay-per-view, the vitriol, the rancor, if you will, about the 10 pounds of gold going around the waist of Tyrus, that has made so many people shocked, alarmed, angry, giving up their fight subscriptions, screaming for some type of justice in the world of the National Wrestling Alliance. And I think that's what we need to talk about tonight. And it's your voice that's speaking here. It's not mine. I've given it a D. I see some value in Tyrus being the world's heavyweight champion. And that's in a very specific way. But this is the Lightning One era. And there are different voices, different thoughts about whether or not 5 million followers on Twitter makes him as valuable to, and a permanent spot on Gutfeld makes him a viable candidate to wear the same title held by Dory Funk Jr. and Ric Flair. Let's go to the chat and get some of those opinions. And they are coming all over the place while I've been gabbing away. So let me get back to it for a second. Dodie asked, was Jay still crying into his beer? Willie, will the U.S. Tag Team Champions ever wrestle La Rebellion for the NWA World Tag Team Championship? Well, there is historical significance for it. The Midnight Express did wrestle Arn and Tully as U.S. Tag Team Champions for the NWA World Tag Team Championship. But largely that was mostly a magazine thing about making them number one contenders for the belt. I always loved it as a kid, but it never seemed to come to fruition for any of the other titles. So I don't know if that's in the cards, buddy. Let's go back to Hebes here. The mid-card game, talking about the pay-per-view, came off pretty weak. Not much story and a lot of wrestling for the sake of wrestling till it was time to go home. I agree. I feel that they could have cut out the Wildcat tag match and moved something. I guess he got cut out. Oh, move the Fixers to the pre-show would have solved the time crunch issues. Interesting. I think that the Fixers are more over with a lot of people than they might be with you and me, just because we've seen them so often and they've been so upfront and in our faces. But I hear what you're saying there. Jay says Markova was a stud. She was good, absolutely. The match was okay. It wasn't terrible, and I'm a big Markova and Max fan, so I wish I'd felt better overall about the pay-per-view. Pipe Picasso asked, like Jay said, or says rather, someone needs to step into Aldous' spot. With Clearwater getting the TV title, will he be the shot at that spot? Well, I'll leave you guys to answer that question. He's the United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion, or I should say World for UWN. It's Worlds for NWA. I don't think he's there yet in the way he's been presented by the NWA, but I'm very happy he's TV champion, very well deserved. And I'd like to see him make a nice run with that and maybe go for 7. Pollo has revealed why she was off. She's been sitting on a secret for a long time, and now she's ready to show it to us. I'll keep scrolling down to see if that's come to pass, but I know that she's posted some things on social media. Willie believes Dak Draper should have taken Nick Aldis's spot. I think Draper's great. He's been undefeated, as Pollo points out coming into this. Usually everyone loses their first match in the NWA. He did not. He started right off in that national tournament and went right to the pay-per-view. He can clearly talk, but I think we need more exposure and some allowing for him to grow in the company in terms of recognition and moving his way up the card. But Doty points out, don't sleep on Dak Draper. If you sleep, shame on you. And that's sort of an opinion that many of us share. Pretty Empowered are Jay's new besties. That's because they basically did a commercial ad for him while he was there. I'm sure I'll show it to you on Thursday. It looks great. EC3 versus Tom was utter shit. Well, I mean, this is what we're here to talk about tonight. Pipe had said, Billy will improve the NWA by adding more titles, but on bumps. So enough of the titles. Shh, don't let him hear you. Camille, Doty says, still the face of the NWA. Yep, deservedly so. How long can Camille carry the company? Well, likely until she's picked up by somebody else who recognizes the value. Heeb said, I quite enjoyed the storytelling between Cardona and Murdoch in the main. It was pretty good, especially in the beginning, like Murdoch saying to Tyrus, give me 60 seconds with this clown and I'll take care of business, and him bailing out. So that was pretty neat. So Pollo asked, do you feel your rating would be higher, speaking to me, I think, overall with a different main event outcome? No, I am not upset that Tyrus is the world's heavyweight champion. I am not surprised either. We're here to be honest. Tyrus is unable to go in the ring at the level that I think an NWA World's Heavyweight Champion should. But as I mentioned earlier, I believe he has value in other areas, and clearly, that's been taken into consideration when when he's on Gutfeld and he has the number of followers he does on Twitter, and I'm sure other social media outlets as well. What I think happened there, my rating wouldn't be higher, but I think a lot of people would say different things. Look, I'm going to read you just some of the comments now that we're up to that Tyrus comment there. Actually, all of the comments on my Instagram feed. There's only about 20, so it'll just take a moment. I had put up a very neutral post. Here is Tyrus with black G's and Kyle Davis as the new world heavyweight champion holding the belt, and your thoughts are welcome. Those thoughts were, of all the people to elevate, they chose this guy. Doty had a positive comment. Whatever the results, the way Idolmania comes into the ring and celebrates was a very cool moment. If there's a cool moment in this match, yeah, I agree. All that work that new comment now, all that work that Aldis did to bring that title back to relevance. The title was featured in front of 10,000 plus people a few years ago, and now Tyrus holds that belt. Weird. I see congrats. I see meh. I see thumbs down. I see congratulations, Tyrus. But I see a lot of the, geez, NWA is running out of talent. Bullshit, Billy. What a joke. Won't be watching anymore for now. Why does the NWA put a strap on ex-WWE jobbers? Once again, the NWA title will disappear into oblivion. The sport is dead. Really? Shake my head. Never thought Uncle Ruckus. Well, that's fine. They go on. It seems to loop over for some reason. But again, there are some positive. Definitely deserves it. He should be able to get some casual eyes on the NWA with his news correspondent side. Congratulations, Tyrus. But I also read, what a bit, literally the biggest joke. Heart attack waiting to happen. That's my problem with Tyrus, is the way he's unable to really move. He's a very big man, and he's nearly 50 years of age. So it goes on a little bit longer than I thought it were, but dumb decision. I think it's a garbage idea. He's a terrible wrestler and person, they write. I don't think we need to entirely get into that. It makes the NWA World Heavyweight Championship drop heavily in value, and it was already so low. And no wonder why Aldis wants out. So again, more comments of what I'm seeing on social media in the negative than there are in the positive. Willie asks, back to the chat now and your comments, which is what we're here for. Why were genocide? Where were genocide and Allison K? Not on this pay-per-view. Genocide I haven't seen in a little bit, but Doty says Tyrus wins. His win is controversial, but the worst of the worst is how they ended Tom and EC3 in their match. I have had much expectation for it. How long will they treat Tom like shit? Yeah. Jeremy, I think, responded to Poyo's comments about, if the event was different, if the outcome of the main event was different. Jeremy thinks his rating would be higher if the main event were different. I think that's true of a lot of people. Apparently, it's not 5 million. I didn't mean to sound exaggeratory there, but I will, as we're talking, take a look. But I certainly apologize if I overstated what his numbers of followers were. That sweet Fox News cheddar. Yeah. The way Idolmania, Doty says, the gangs come out and celebrate together at the end is a cool moment, none the least. I agree. It was neat. They got 3 of the main male belts right now. or the three main belts, you could arguably say. Everything but World Junior. Willie doesn't care that Tyrus is the champ now, guys. He has to relinquish his pie and hot dog eating heavyweight championship. Well, Idolmania is the new NWA bloodline. Poyo, back to you. Currently, it would serve greater purpose not to have the U.S. Tag Champs face the World Tag Champs. Yeah, and I've kind of talk my way hoarse through this stuff and have to move things along, but I agree. It doesn't make sense and likely never really has made sense more than the one time I could think of in the National Wrestling Alliance history. I don't know. Apparently, we have some kind of weird spam bot in here. But I agree, Poyo. It's really not something that, title for title that they need to do. Certainly not right now. Carlton says this is bad for Tyrus because as champion, you have to be able to wrestle everyone. He never needed a belt. It's an interesting perspective. Idolmania, Doty says, has Jordan Clearwater, which many hope he will be NWA's next big thing, and Scion, our newest favorite NWA fighting champion. So it's not bad. No, it isn't. I think Sion's killing it out there, and it's sorry, just getting phone calls here at the same time. It's let me just tell my daughter I will call her right back. So let's keep going. Hit bingo. I was hoping Tyrus was just a transitional championship, but since he got a new belt, he might hold it longer. I think there's a reason why Tyrus has the title. I think it has to do with his exposure on Fox News and on social media. 544,000 followers. Yeah, you're right. So please, my apologies about how many he had. I think it's about Billy trying to get eyes onto the NWA, and there isn't anyone who has that kind of social media presence. Perhaps Matt Cardona would be the closest in the absence of Nick Aldis. But I think too, part of the combination that you took, there's a number of A-level players in the NWA. You can insert your own names here, but for me, it's Pope, it's Tom Latimer. It's arguably whether or not you're digging the Control Your Narrative storyline, EC3. There's a few people right there. Camille as an A player. For me, the A+ player in this game, whether you were tired of him through overexposure or bad booking or what have you, was Nick Aldis. And his loss, as we've equated to, last week in kind of a Moneyball analogy, was, you can't really replace Jason Giambi. You've got to go find a Scott Hatterberg to go in there and see what you can do. Tyrus is for his value outside the ring, I think is his reason is why he's champion. I think that's probably obvious for all to see. But Poyo says it's been hypothesized that by many that the NWA has a bit of a void in the main event scene. Losing Aldis did not help, that's for sure. But it's really time to build up those new major stars. Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I'm hoping organically some of those people just automatically fill those spaces. What I worry about in a situation like putting Tyrus as champion is that it's rammed down our throats. If you look at the social media, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I'm speaking, I think, for the majority from what I've read. We don't want it. Tyrus can't wrestle. And his politics don't mean anything to me. So I'm not even in the same country he's in or from it. It's nothing about Republican versus Democrats for me. It's nothing about Fox News, which I don't watch regardless. It's about whether or not his value, even if I understand it, should have him wearing the same title as the names that we hold with such reverence as in the past. If you go down that list of NWA World Champions, I don't know who you would count if there's anyone. If you scoff at Tyrus, if you're someone who scoffs at Tyrus on that list, who else would you scoff at? I mean, I can't think of any that maybe aren't Abyss or Rhino from and neither one of them were terrible, just very short reigns. The Sheik, maybe, I don't know. You guys tell me. Wrestling with the MMA, our friend Jeremy says that they have plenty of stars there to build up. And Pipe says a storyline of Clearwater getting closer to the 7 wins, pressuring Tyrus, breaking up the Idol faction. Good storyline. That's a great idea. Maybe that's something they're building for. Let's go to Willie here. Tyrus will have a long NWA World Heavyweight Championship reign as long as the NWA supports his dietary habits. You got me. I feel like I got Rick rolled there. I got Willie rolled. New era. This is it. This is the new era, guys. Pipe asked, what happens to Murdoch now? I don't know. I think Murdoch's second reign better than his first. I think we loved this version of Murdoch. Maybe time will tell us if he needs to see a title reign again. Doty tells us again, we're just coming fast and furious here. The overall Hard Times 3 really felt like it lacked fire. I agree. The card actually looks interesting, but somehow the fire isn't there. It's a shame because NWA X Wildcat is my I guess versus Wildcat is my longtime dream. Wow. Yeah, there's a it's a lot of fun between interpromotional stuff. Murdoch didn't get this much attention as Sean Mega points out. Chris says Trevor goes back to his day job. Yeah, he's got one. And maybe that's what happens. Pollo, who's always the voice of a voice of intelligence and certainly has a viewpoint from inside as a talent, says perhaps we should withhold judgment until we determine whether Tyrus is actually using his social media to promote NWA in ways he's not necessarily done in the past, and if that has a positive impact in viewership. Certainly something that's kind of like me saying at the top of the show, everybody needs to calm down a little bit. Maybe there's something that can come out of this. But someone else on Twitter said something. He's going to bring the NWA World's Heavyweight title on the Gutfeld. He's going to have it there. Probably talk about it once. But he's had the TV title there the whole time. And how many viewers has that brought in? But I like the talk about withholding judgment. I'm down. I'm critical of the NWA right now. I'm unhappy with the booking that we're seeing, but I do think that those who are saying this is the death knell of everything, that the 10 pounds of gold used to mean something. I don't know that we're there yet. I don't know that we'll ever be, but Chris rather sarcastically says, yeah, let's not criticize Billy. He's a wrestling genius. DKM, not a fan of Tyrus, but let's see what happens. Yep. Let's see what happens. Hope for the best, expect the worst. Pollo might know this one, but life's something we're unrehearsed. I don't know. Anyway, Pipe says Sean Murdoch got an unexpected approval from NWA fans with very short of power. They ran with it. Yeah. To get his title. Sure. Willie wants Tom as world's heavyweight champion. This is the most Tyrus post I've seen in the NWA. I think it's Jeremy's answering Pollo there. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Zoskar? Hi. The thing with putting the belt on, and hello. The thing with putting the belt on Tyrus is, does that Fox audience care about the NWA or wrestling in general? Are they going to stay? So No, there's an algorithm for this. I haven't seen it, but I've heard it talked about extensively. Even on Cornette's podcast, he had a story that I'm going to let Jeremy, Wrestling with the MMA, talk about tomorrow during our podcast, that involved Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana and himself, and what that meant, but how he was asked to not say things on his podcast. Cornette was, because it affected AEW viewership and a certain portion of that, and how that came over to the NWA, how it ran into the NWA. So there is a percentage that is expected to come over, however low that might be, and any butt in a seat, I guess, is a dollar made. DKM says the crowd who was there at the show with Jay, the crowd was chanting boring at Tom ECW, EC3. I almost said ECW. Jay, thanks for coming in. I'm going to take a drink here. Heeb says, I just wonder what babyface is out there to challenge Tyrus after a Murdoch rematch. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know who they're going to run up against him. I guess we may see tonight on Power. There may be someone step forward. Poyo says Tyrus had posted more about the NWA in the last 48 hours than he has in the last 6 months combined. It might well pay off in new viewers. It very, very well may. And to your point, let's maybe see what happens. Like I say, it's interesting. It's almost the medium. I'll see a lot of things online saying the sky is falling. The NWA is coming to an end. It's dead to me. I've canceled everything. And I come on here and I see a lot of voices that kind of echo yours, Poyo. Let's wait and see what happens. Almost to that point, there's more people watching right now, the pre-party, than I have seen in my time, in the couple times that I've hosted it. There's a lot of people here for our viewership. And I think this topic, which largely is around Tyrus right now, is driving that to happen. Dodie says Tyrus actually not that bad. Yes, he is. He wrestled better than many haters said. Dodie, you and I disagree on so many things. I respect you so much, however. He moved as expected for an immobile giant wrestler. Okay, I can enjoy that for what it is, but world champion, it's a different story. Yeah, I mean the great meme is him coming off the second rope and rolling that we've seen. Yeah, I'm not expecting him to be a great wrestler. I'm expecting him to use his platform to better the National Wrestling Alliance. We spent a lot of time on Tyrus here, and that's okay. The new belt is just longer. Yeah, the plates are bigger too. As well, and mentioning that earlier, that the Australian flag's back on the side plate, DK. This was an answer to Zoskar. I'm going to pronounce it. Considering most of the areas is popular were at one point or still are wrestling areas, the potential is there for, I'm sure. Heaps. No one is really besides Tom. I think this is for who's stepping up for the number one, babyface spot. How long are they going to tie him up with EC3? Sean Mega says, it reminds me of when JBL first won the title. Everyone hated it, but grew to like him over time. Tyrus is a great talker. He can talk his ass off. Let's not anyone pretend that he can't. There is some value there as well. Media, M5. Tyrus can have challengers such as Pope, Latimer, EC3, even Thrillbilly, and Cardona. It's got to be matches people will want to view. I just want to make sure that people are viewing it because they enjoy that matchup, not because they hate one guy and they got to get the belt off him. They got to see him or we're all dead in the water. I think that we need to, as I've been saying, take it one step at a time. James Bell says, look back, and it's clear 6 months ago, Aldis wasn't going to re-sign. Cardona gets hurt and stories have to be rewritten. Also, Cardona's a free agent. Is he an NWA guy so a storyline can include him? I mean, he's posting on social media like he wants that belt right now. I don't know what the tapings have shown, if he's been there. As much as I hate to point it out, Jeremy says, Hard Times 3 Tyrus main event sells out. 73, not Tyrus main event, didn't sell out. Did they sell out Hard Times 3? Maybe they did. Yeah, smaller venue. Dodie says, nevertheless, I'd rather watch Tyrus here than hear every bullshit EC3 said. It's a shame that I have such a high hope for EC3, and what he brings is bullshit that makes Tyrus look like Andre the Giant. Wow. Yeah. See, like I have no problem with the control your narrative storyline. I just need it explained more succinctly so that we get something going with it, because EC3 is an A-class talent, guys. He is. He looks like $1 million. He sounds like $1 million. He just has to have the right material. And in his particular case, maybe he needs to be booked by somebody else rather than himself. But that's always been his purview, to control his own destiny, control his own narrative. Let's go to Dave. Wait 1 second, Dave. Tyrus is better than Kahagas. I'm gonna remain silent. Dave Scooby says, also a new reality show with Wrestlers' Wives will feature Tyrus's wife. Yeah, I mean, I don't care about that, but I'm not every wrestling fan. I no longer fall into the demographic for age groups. Don't think I'd watch it more than an episode, but that is something that could certainly draw attention. I don't know what it's called. I was jokingly calling it the Real Housewives of NWA, but that is something that comes out of this as well. Pipe says, for me, Kerry Morton and Colby Carino can feud forever. Both are so good together. I want them as a tag team so badly, Pipe. I think them as a heel tag team with our dads used to run this place. I mean, I'm all for that. Poyo says Hard Times 3 sold out in significant part because Wildcat is localized there and routinely draws close to 1,000 audience. Think about that. You got an independent that can draw 1,000 people in New Orleans. Fantastic. Dave thinks that the Wives of Wrestlers show, let's just call it Wrestlers' Wives, I don't know what it's called, it's a bad idea. Dodie, Kerry Morton, PJ Hawks, Colby Carino are the future of the NWA, especially for the junior division. And my money goes to PJ. I think they're all great. I also read Billy saying something on one of the sites this week that he loves heavyweight title matches, big, beefy boys. And he says that's where all the money is. So why would I want to book my guys really largely anywhere else? It sells tickets, and that's why I love heavyweights and super heavyweights. Luke's got a dedicated following. Pipe says PJ is extremely good. Sean says all this might be right, but he's coming off as a spoiled apple. See, I think on the surface that might be the case, but I think if you read what he's saying, and with as much emotion pulled out of it as he can muster right now, I think he's being very eloquent. And I think he's making some good points about the booking. I dislike the aspect of it where he says, well, now that you've seen the pay-per-view, you know why I've called it a day. I had to call it a day. I can't be part of this anymore. I'm putting words in his mouth, but I don't mean to. Just trying to give the general impression of what he's saying. But there is something there. And, people will listen. And that's not good for the NWA. That's something we'll be talking about tomorrow with Jeremy and Dave. How is all this bad press going to affect the NWA? Is any press good press? I don't know. Player says, no matter what people's feelings are about Tyrus, every promotion has had champions at various times, which to many viewers presumably devalued that belt. We are presumptively assuming Tyrus is that person living in the Lightning One era, but NWA has had champs previously who are nowhere near his level. Wow. I think on the whole, there's some value to that comment. Oh, she's added more. How many people mocked Tim Storm as NWA World Champion prior to his meteoric to his rise in celebrity due to the 10 pounds of gold series? Yeah, it's a great point. It really is. So giving it time, as we've said, might be, for the best. Good, bad, or indifferent. People are talking about the NWA right now, period. Yeah. And that's something that if we had more than an hour or just 11 minutes left, I'd really want to talk about. I don't know that bad is good if they're talking about it. If what they're saying and I'm a fan. I'm just talking about what I'm seeing from the fans saying, I'm canceling. I'm out. This is BS. The booking's terrible. I'm tired of Gags the Gimp. I'm tired of Rolando Freeman. I'm not, but I am tired of the booking around this guy, that guy, and the other girl. And how some help is needed, and how everybody keeps seeming to push back on, it all happened after various other people left. Cornette was gone, and Dave Lagana was gone, and now Aldis is gone, and Billy booking for one. We'll see what happens, but it's really interesting hearing that the different perspective. Heeb's controversy creates cash. Yes, it does. I think that's probably, to Poyo's point, maybe the bottom line here. Wait till Thursday when Jay will talk about it for what it was like live. Yeah, that's going to be a really interesting perspective. Dave Scooby, who was live there, is on us with it tomorrow, but we'll have different content for you tomorrow and Thursday. I know those guys will really want to deep dive into the pay-per-view and what it was like being there, and we'll leave that to them. Maybe we'll talk about Power, and we'll talk about the results. So Devin is saying, to his point, it actually wasn't sold out. So there you have it, from someone who was there. Zoskar says, at Poyo, Poyer and Power and all this headlines made a lot of noise. By the end of the week, everyone knew Hard Times 3 was happening. But that noise, though, was, Billy didn't want to do it. He said there wasn't enough talent, and you could just kind of feel everybody kind of, who wants this company to do so well, kind of rubbing their brow going, boy, it's just one thing after another. I do want to get to the show for tonight. I'm going to try to very quickly go through this. Who's left here? Let's go to Poyo here. EC3 is spouting what the storyline indicates. He can step away from that at any moment and be a main event star. Yeah, and he said very recently in an interview, really loves the NWA, thinks it's great here, which is awesome, and should be. I mean to take that as there is another direction he could go. Media wants to know, DK, were they chanting boring as soon as the bell sounded, or was more like they said boring due to the match that wasn't expected? Crowd could be heard booing bad too. I'll let DK answer. Dodie says, I actually have good hope when I think he said he means he had good hope when Control Your Narrative raided the NWA. But when EC3 stops his own match for bullshit talk, that was weird. Then it turned sour. How long will they treat Tom like shit? Power needs more promos before and after a wrestler wrestles a match. Before COVID, they did that a lot. And that's a lot of things we hear now, guys, is, pre-pandemic, everything was just humming along. We loved that show. And, we weren't all sitting here, criticizing in one way or another. We were loving Power, and it's lost something this year. And I know we're all hopeful we get it. We get it back. Here's Poyo. Tim, my love, countless fans immediately said they were canceling the very moment NWA posted an episode with me in the thumbnail. Really? Well, that's terrible. You're a friend of the Alliance, but beyond that, we think you're a talent. We think you're incredibly funny and valuable. And I'd be interested to see if that did happen. I would suspect, like maybe the case right now with Tyrus and the fallout from Hard Times 3, that wasn't the case. That they didn't cancel. New premiere of NWA is on YouTube. We got to get to that the card tonight for Power, which by the way didn't get advertised on Fight. Jeremy had to find it for me on Twitter. Very interesting. Doty's down. I'm a bit in line with Billy's favor of big heavyweight matches. There's a value in them. Big man versus big man is a cool spot on its own, but can Billy bring us more big men with better ability? Yeah. I'm going to come back to these comments in a moment, but with just a few minutes left, let's take a look at what is on the card tonight, if I can find that. Power. And I seemingly have lost it. Let me see what we got here. Oh, here we go. So on the show tonight, in just a few minutes at 6:05, 10 minutes from now, let me take Doty's comment down so it's kind of not. Odinson is facing someone named Ryan Davidson, and I am not familiar with Mr. Davidson. Would look like a debut match for him in the NWA. If you know him, please put some comments so we can get your thoughts into the chat. They're going to have a title match, the first World Television Championship title defense of Jordan Clearwater, your golden boy, Idolmania Sports Management, versus Big Strong Mims, your number one contender. I assume that's going to be your main event tonight. And we also have, this is oddly named, a sanctioned wrestling match, as the most feared Kratos takes on Aaron Stevens. I guess it's sanctioned because Aaron is a manager officially. So that's going to be your focus for Power tonight. We've talked about a lot of this, and we will with the time that we have left here about Tyrus. A lot of opinions, about Tyrus, and some good talk in the chat about waiting to see what happens. I look forward to the other broadcast this week in the Alliance-Wrestling.com family about the different viewpoints and while it does give me some personal hope that it's not going to be as bad as the reaction after this has been. It's not going to be as terrible as some people suspect it. It is. It's not going to be like the sky is falling. I think that it doesn't take away from when I'm loving the talent and I'm respecting the people who put the show on. This was a bad pay-per-view, and I'm not sure that the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion is the right guy for the job. But my message, I think, largely echoes Pollo Del Mar's. Let's wait and see. I'll be honest with you. I don't have a ton of faith that it's going to improve in the immediate future. I am hoping that that's not the case. It doesn't go from bad to worse. But we need to be willing to give it a shot. I can tell you this, guys. Even when I'm unhappy with the NWA and I'm unhappy with the booking and presumably the booking of William Patrick Corgan, I'm still watching the NWA. I'm not canceling my Fight subscription. There is talent here. There is potential here. And as J. Cal reminded us all a week or so ago, there is many times that the NWA has been under siege and it has always survived. I don't even know that we're under siege, but I think that with that, I'll run through a couple of comments here. Heebs, I'm interested to see if they keep Ryan Davidson around. He's one of my favorites from early Booker T's. Oh, ROW episodes. Okay, great. DK was very critical of the NWA pre-pandemic. Okay, I think, I presume nothing, but I think that you would agree that it's better than it is now. It was better than it is now. Missing 2 Daves from the NWA, they were a big part. Yep, we all know their last names. Poyo talking about whether or not they did cancel when her presence was announced. They did cancel. It was proven that my episodic debut saw the highest number of unsubs and the highest number of new subs, so it balanced. Fantastic. Doskar, more or less since NWA USA started, we quickly went from a few wrestlers with nice characters and a background story to a huge roster full of new talent that were kind of generic. I'm confident they'll all build to many different gimmicks in a couple of years, but a lot of people won't wait. That is true, and a lot of people won't wait. Too many comedy skips. I'm trying to burn through it with the minute or so we have left. But there's a place for it in wrestling. Dodie says, imagine treating Tom like shit over and over again when Camille's got mad at it and then leads. That'll be a disaster. I think they're good. Ryan's a Wildcat Star Poil tells us. Thanks for being fodder for the new champ, Mims. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if there's a turnover tonight, we'll all be surprised. But Mims is a guy who, previously shut down I've completely lost my train of thought. He was shut down by Tyrus. And I know he was injured, or at least I believe he was injured. And I think that really cut his rise to the TV championship short at that time. She mentions that Aaron was forced out of retirement as a punishment for not revealing the question Mac's face. Okay. Listen, we're at 6:01. You got 4 minutes left till NWA Power on Fight. Let me do this little bit here. Join us every Thursday, 8 p.m., 5 p.m. Pacific for the Alliance Guys podcast. That's with J. Cal, the boss. That's with DKM. And that's with Jaden. They're on Thursdays on, where are we here? This is the hour. That's where you are right now. Anyway, we had one down here as well. We are on tomorrow nights, the other Alliance Guys. Check your socials. You'll see Wrestling with the MMA. That's Jeremy, Dave Scooby, and myself. And, we'll pretend that we're going to spend an hour and spend 2.5 talking about this kind of thing again. We hope that you are all there. We'll get into some different levels of stuff here so as not to repeat ourselves all through the time. On Twitter, please follow the Alliance blog at the Alliance blog. The last few comments here as we have a minute. Losing Lagana is the biggest blow to the NWA. Stars can be created. NWA can have plenty of them. But what they have is a writer who can tell a story that we care. I think what they don't have, yeah. When Lagana leaves, it's big shoes to fill. There's some work to be done, guys. There's always room for improvement. We can wait and see. It's not good, and I think that they've heard us. I hope that they've heard us. We've certainly had some voices. There's a lot of room for growth, and there's a lot of room for us to be able to speak. The NWA listens, and I'm glad that we are out here being able to talk about it together. I want to thank you all for being here. And if I can get the right brand up, I'm so terrible at this. Go enjoy Power on Fight. And until then, we'll see you at the matches.
Thanks for checking out the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA Power every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog And until next time, we are the Alliance.